You both have immense bodies of work, 30 plus years in all platforms. What, at this point, what would you like this group to know that's essential about your work, each of your bodies of work?
I think that one of the things that's essential about our work is that it keeps evolving. And that people say, I sometimes hear people say, well, I've done their work. And I go, how recently? And it's been both, it's been wonderful, but also a challenge, because there are some structures where you go, like when I went to do Rolfing, it was very clear. I do my 10 sessions, we did this. Number 7 was the nose, which was always awful. And hated the nose. But it was, you know, but that's what you were getting. And so with we have certain principles, and I think among those, the things that we've contributed to the field are the microscopic truth, which I now call matching, and the upper limit problem, that the one human problem is how much love and positive energy you can give and receive every day, and embodiment. That I was just the other day, I was saying to Gay, we were out in the backyard, I was saying, all of this embodies too. It's just so wonderful to be able to be fully embodied, to be here while you're here. And so much of, I think, what goes on is separating us from our direct experience. And I'm so very interested in direct experience. I would say the other thing that about our work, and especially about my work, is my specialty is turning concepts into embodied processes. So for example, I have a whole process for commitment, that once you've done that process, you will understand commitment and you can use it in your life. And so I keep doing that. In fact, I'll just share one with you now, which is I'd like you to bodify your experience of getting here tonight. So just take a minute and just bodify your experience of getting here tonight. Go ahead. Yeah, and the more that you bodify, the more you're... And if you're not bodifying, and look around and see what it looks like when people are bodifying. So we have 12 books together. Gay and I have 12 books together on relationship and body intelligence. And he is just about to publish his 42nd and 43rd book next year, including reinventing himself as a novelist. And his latest book is about Sir Errol Hyde. And everybody who's read this latest book says it is a masterpiece. Yeah. So, very exciting. So that's just a taste.
Just a taste.
Yes.
Will you ask me the question again, Sam?
Yes.
What I would take forward about my work?
Yes.
What I'd like you to know.
You'd like us to know right now?
How simple it is. So that means that anybody can learn it. Mm-hmm. That this is all learnable. And I think a lot of transpersonal ideas and this whole idea of shifting your consciousness, it can sound to me sometimes like, okay, that sounds great. How do I do that? Should I just meditate? Okay, I meditated. Now what do I do? That in fact it's so simple, doesn't mean it's so easy, but of deciding I actually want to shift, and then I have that within my body. I have the ability to shift my physiology right now. You too could do that. I could do too. Breathe a little more, move a little bit. That noticing what's true and then interfacing with it in a new way is changing your consciousness. So that we all have that ability, and it's learnable. A lot of what I grew up in as a psychologist was, well, you know, there are things that are really wrong with people.
Yes.
And a lot of my job is to assess that. Yes, exactly.
Oh, first you have to assess it, of course.
Yes, I do. I have to assess, basically, so I learned how to assess what's wrong with you, which of course means me. But fortunately, you're worse. So. Some of the time, except for when you're not. And so that was my lens. Of course, it had something to do with growing up and how I've seen the world. But that was one way to deal with life, is what's wrong, what's wrong. Mm-hmm. And eventually I started to understand, well, that's just a certain way that my brain is working. Mm-hmm. That is what reactive brain that is what narrow focus is what's wrong. And in fact, we could all do a little narrow focus about what's wrong right now with the world, because probably there are lots of things that you could think of. But if you'd notice that right now, getting into your body, all the wrong is really just a way for your brain to function. It's mm-hmm. just picking up those little details, seeing them in that beta way. Yeah, that's right. Gotcha. So again, I was good at that, probably because I was so much in reactive brain so much of the time. But then let's just do a little bit of shifting that, because so Lester Femi talked about the open focus brain. So you all can do that if you notice. I'm kind of adrenalized sitting up here, and what's wrong? That's very exciting about what's wrong. But then to actually shift your brain waves right now, and you can do that, and I'll show you right now because it's so fun to do. I'm looking at Danielle, hi there. And so you can look forward and you can look at me or any of, look at outlines, and then continue without moving your head or your eyes. Start to go peripheral with your fingers, so that you can see, like now I can see the painting and I can see the pole over there. Oops, I'm getting over that painting. So you can go peripheral, so that you're actually shifting your brain waves because you decided to. And if you can do that, well, to me, that's the keys to the kingdom, that you are able to change your level of consciousness anytime, anywhere, not just on a meditation cushion. Of course, that's got its place, but because you decided to. And so it's the simplicity of that, not that, again, I don't mean to say it's easy, except maybe, to notice what is and then to decide to do something different. So that's what I would want you to take forward, is that you've got the ability, you've got the power to change your own level of consciousness. And beyond that, that when you do, I'm thinking maybe one or two or maybe all of you are committed to changing the world, but kind of some version of activism. Well, to me, the biggest impact that I can have, and I believe you all can have, is to shift your own state of consciousness to something that is more expanded, that is a very powerful way to walk through the world and very impactful to those around you, that then ripples forward. So that's pieces of my work.
Thank you.
I want to say something about you.
Okay.
In my experience of you, the word that really comes to me is kindness. That you embody kindness, and I think people can osmose from you being kind with themselves in your presence. And I think as we all make that shift, that we become a radiating of kindness, of presence for ourselves, but also for others. So there are people who are brilliant but nasty, and there are people who are really nice but not so contactful, and you have a wonderful combination of being able to help people to access their ability to shift, but in a way that's kind to them rather than in a way that you know, we've got to work really hard, no pain, no gain, and yeah. So I just want you all to know that about Julie.
Well, tagging onto that, there are a few differentiators that I've noticed in studying your work and studying others' works. And one,
just a few, huh?
I've read a few pages.
Okay.
Well studied.
And I was hoping you would speak to some of them to the wider audience as we're being filmed. And I want to start with what you just sort of touched on, which is befriending. Both of you have this concept in different words. Katie, you talk about come to the party. You're welcome to come to the party as you are. It's a come as you are party. Befriending. It's something different that sets you both apart. There is no pathologizing. I remember, Julie, one of the first posts that I wrote in our intentional learning group, and I'm sure it was very long and agonizing over something I'd done that was wrong. And your response was, "What if nothing's wrong with you?"
What?
Didn't she read that?
Yeah.
But it reoriented my whole thinking. And Katie the same. Juliana, my co-founder, was telling me a story about Katie and how she came one of the leadership and transformation weekends that you led. I think you came and there was something with your tooth, is what she remembered. And she said, the whole training taught me more about how Katie befriends what is, more than any other training.
I think a crown had come off, and so I was sort of snaggletooth. I was like,
Yes. And she said that the way Katie just befriended what was beautiful. So I wondered if you'd speak to that, how you are so different than, say, other psychologists and also other teachers out there about befriending and seeing people at their essence and seeing seeing the beauty of what is.
One thing that's coming to me is that no part of us wants to be gotten rid of. So even if it's, we learn to organize ourselves in the context, the environment, the framework in which we were, and particularly familiar school, family. You organize yourself in order primarily to get attention, because without attention, human beings die. And so we'll do anything we need to do to get attention. So that's where the whole development of what we call personas and playing with personas that get you positive attention and personas that are troublesome. And one of the fun things that we've done over the years is persona parties, and inviting your personas to the party and also giving them a better job, but getting acquainted with them rather than, ew, and I can't love myself until I get rid of this, or I lose the weight, or I get smarter, or I grow taller, or some impossible thing. And welcoming, the whole idea of welcoming that everything can be included and can be befriended. And so we have all kinds of processes to do that, but the general idea is you are organizing yourself now for more than just survival. So the more that you can choose, the more that you choose, and I say that you choose ultimately because you choose. We can do all kinds of, well, I'm because, but ultimately you're choosing because that's what you're choosing. And when you choose, you can not only change your state, but you can celebrate your multitudes, your inner multitudes, and play with them. So we have this whole idea that life is serious and hard work, and if you're not working hard, there's something wrong with you. And the whole idea that you can play your way to direct experience of how magnificent life is and other people are is considered rather lowbrow and not academically significant. But where people actually live is, can I make contact with me? Can I make contact with others? And can I make a difference in the world? And so all of what we're focused on and have been for almost 50 years now is how can we consider ourselves a living laboratory? And so we're always experimenting, and that's one of the things that you'll find in our community is that people are very interested in learning and going into the unknown. And so the next unexpected thing doesn't have to be, oh my God. When I was flying out here today, I went to the airport in Santa Barbara, and I was just almost through TSA when the sort of ring went on, and we have to evacuate the airport. There's an emergency, and everybody looked around like, really? Really? There were a whole group of people at the end of the airport who never evacuated. They just sat there. I'm not going anywhere. But we trooped back out. But there was just a sense of okay, this is the parade that we're doing right now, and then we all troop back in again, and it was really kind of no big deal that the unexpected can be included. And some people actually skipped down the escalator. It was like, oh, okay, so even in our when an alarm goes off, you would think that everybody would get totally stressed, but people didn't. So that was exciting.
I'm thinking of your phrase, invitation or imposition. Mm-hmm. And so experiencing life as an invitation instead of just, oh God, this is happening. And I've noticed lately for a while, and maybe you can relate to this, how many times in today have you been thinking, or some part of your consciousness been thrumming on, this should not be happening. This should not be happening.
This is the wrong experience.
No, that's right. If you really want to make yourself crazy, make what is happening the wrong thing to be happening. I do love to read the news, it's true. But the basic bottom line of any good news article is, and this should not be happening.
Right.
So
we're
do
outraged.
something.
And
So do something. Right. We should all be doing something. And I'm usually, okay, it shouldn't be happening. What should I do? Right?
Yeah, and right smack in reactive brain.
Oh, there it is. Versus, oh, this is what's happening. Mm-hmm. And finding that place, the facing into, oh, this is happening right now. And what I've learned over time is that as I do that, I really can find the magic in what's happening. Because if I'm in, well, it shouldn't be happening, then I've got to fight with it and try to get around it and wish it away, even though it's already happened. Think about couples, and so much of the time people are fighting over, but it shouldn't have happened. So if you'd only done those things, it wouldn't have happened. So, okay.
And we wouldn't be where we are.
No, so I have to learn to not do the things that already happened, like yesterday. I'm trying to learn those things, really. Versus, oh, right now, and I'm getting present, actually sitting here with you all. I mean, the delight, the joy of being with you. Like, how'd we do this? This was a good one, Katie.
Yeah, this is a good one. Yeah.
And this is what's happening, right? We get to play and be together in this beautiful way. So embracing the whole and then seeing, I mean, really imagining. I think so much of the climate change inference for me is somehow humans have ruined everything. And that we, I don't know, we're sort of a barnacle in the butt of nature. And it just scraped it away and everything would have been fine until we came along. Versus getting in sync with, oh, here we are. I mean, a while back I thought, oh, we're at like 7.8 billion of us now. And so I kept thinking, but what am I doing here? Like, I'm like 7.8 like whatever. How did I get here? I'm just one of the mass. And what if it's perfect? What is it really about if actually me being here and you being here and all of the things that we've been up to as humans, what if we really are part of nature? Right? I mean, notice that. Right? We really are part of nature. We're not this
No, I'm not.
extraneous.
I only live here. I am not part of nature.
Right.
Nature is there.
Right, and my plastic, yes, that's right, and we've sort of ruined that thing, yeah. But to embrace the whole and to be with what is true right this moment, it is, here I am. And I want to add in, because since I
add in, but look.
What?
Look.
Okay then. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a walking Hoberman spear.
Yes.
So we knew that already. Imagine this is a human, and so maybe. Does anybody here think you should just be this? Okay, I feel good. No, everything's so good. Are you feeling joyful? So am I. How about now?
Don't breathe out.
Okay. But this is as much as this. Like, it's all me. It's all in me. The density. So if you can't see, okay, I'll go. There it is. The density is part of me. The shame and the guilt and the pulling in and the resting and the whoo, and I don't want to go out, and I'm really mad and I'm really scared, and that it's all a whole human, whole mammal, and that we get to celebrate and maybe even master every level of energy. I mean, imagine mastering despair. That's on my list. Okay, good, perfect. I'll
Mastering despair.
That it's not a thing. It's not like, oh God, now I have to die. But it's, oh yeah, that's that. That's that experience of humanity, of being my own humanness and agitated fear and all of it. So letting it all be true. Playing with the magic of that.
And it sounds like, too, befriending all of those different states.
Yes.
So I was thinking about having the wrong experience, and that under that, for me, has been a sense of entitlement. Like, this definitely should not be happening to me. As one of our workshop participants said many years ago, I did not reincarnate for this shit. Which I think pretty much sums it up. And for me, the other end of the continuum of entitlement is appreciation and gratitude, and really seeing, and it's not going toward that, it is the actual experience of, wow, really all this embodies too, and all of these experiences that we can have, and the contacting another person. And just this week I saw a chick hatch, and I had my face cut open and a basal cell carcinoma taken out. That was actually 2 weeks ago. But in all of these different experiences, that when I face and am directly engaging with life, for me, it's just wow. And the only time that I am not experiencing that is that I get separate. I get disconnected, either disconnected from me, disconnected from feeling, or disconnected from connection with others or the world. And I think that comes from fear, which I can say more about later.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope it will.
Let's talk about revealing.
Oh, no.
Because this is another one that you're both quite different than certainly other leadership teachers that I've seen. And by revealing, I mean, Katie, you and Gay have, as far as I can tell, lived your life out loud.
Yeah.
Through the public, through books. I don't know if you all have read all of their books, but they catalog their relationships so transparently. And I've witnessed that with you. And Julie, you talk so openly about your experiences with Kathy, and when you do have upsets, and I'd just like you to talk about that, because that really is so profound and has taught me so much.
I have things to say, but I always do, so
Well, you were giving me space.
I'm giving you space, darling.
Well, I was contemplating, because so much I've learned from your modeling from the beginning. It's just been tremendous for me. But there was something happening as I was getting involved with your work, which was, for some of you, you might remember the dark days in Colorado of Amendment 2.
I do.
1992. Some of you might not have been born, I don't know. True. But that was a time when, so if you don't know what I'm referring to, in Colorado, the state, there was a referendum, and there was a vote by our populace to legalize this discrimination against gays and lesbians. And so that was such a,
It was really shocking.
Yes, I felt shocked, and remember wearing black the next day. Just felt scared about who are my friends and who can I trust, kind of some paranoia in there. And at that point, thought, oh, okay, so I commit to being open in my relationship with what's happening, because who is out there that people can look to that actually, healthy or unhealthy, who knows, but and actually see, oh, this is a relationship that is happening, and to make it public and as much as possible, which was kind of at cross purposes to what I was learning as a therapist. Because you know, a therapist, you're not supposed to disclose that stuff, but
You're not there, really.
No,
You're just
you
roll.
slate. Yeah, that never worked for me, but as you can probably tell. But that was a whole other piece to that for me, was just feeling such a strong commitment, and that was my activism, and still is, I think, to bring that forward. So it was a whole other piece to revealing.
Yeah, I think of revealing as the principle of authenticity, of being real, is the primary principle. So it's the primary gateway, that nothing really happens in your life until you're willing to be authentic, until you're willing to be yourself, to be real, to show up real. And when you do that, when I do that, always magic occurs, because when you're being real, you are generating more energy than when you're concealing. Concealing takes effort. You actually have to contract your body to conceal. And Freud said a long time ago, people asked him what he had learned in his 75 years of practice, and he said, secrets make you sick. And we've just seen that is so clear, that concealing creates dis-ease, disconnection, and revealing, the fear of revealing, to me, boils down to the fear that somebody is really going to confirm that I am actually unlovable. If I'm real, somebody is actually going to see that I am completely unlovable, and they'll go, ha, see, I knew it. And that when people actually show up as themselves, to me that's one of the most inspiring, exciting, activating experiences, because when you're real, you activate more of my realness, and then the field grows, we get smarter, we get more connected, and it's also the quickest way through fear. Rather than tiptoeing your way through, you just say, what is so? What is so? Well, I'm scared, or I don't know what to say right now, or I'm afraid you don't like me anymore, or whatever it is that's going on. When you can match that, you get aligned. So most of the time we're at cross purposes. I should say that. No, I shouldn't say that. They're not going to like me if I say that. I want to wait until there's enough time. Is it safe? You're not safe. All that stuff that goes on, and then the actual being real, all of that just disappears. You know, it's like, ta-da! You show up as you, and people get to celebrate you. Because realness, we say authenticity is incredibly sexy. When you're authentic, it's just juicy. You get juicy. Yeah, there's just this little problem of fear.
Let's talk about fear.
Yeah.
How do you address fear?
That's a platter for you.
Okay. All right.
Testify.
I'm gonna just stand also because I've been kind of doing peekaboo with some of you, and I thought also I don't like to sit. I've been sitting most of the day today on the airplane, so I'm going to just stand and stretch a little bit. I've been obsessed with fear for about 5 or 6 years because it became really clear to me that at the basis of all problems, I'll let you know that we're in the last stages of creating online programs on our nonprofit website, which is the Foundation for Conscious Living. We're going to have 3 programs. One is Coming Home to Yourself. One is Restoring Resourcefulness, which has a lot of the fear stuff in it, and the other is Creating Caring Communities. And so we're taking our best processes and creating them as online video programs that would be available to anybody, and also be available for any other kind of program in which you want to add them, to kind of put them into the stew and add them. So they don't have to be separate, because it's really all about moving from fear to here. And the experience of fear, we'll just do a little, there are 4 expressions of fear, and we've got videos on fear melters, but basically fear, when you're in fear, just contract a little bit. Just contract a little bit or a lot. And notice some of you contract in, some of you are going to contract up, some of you are going to fold, some of you will probably do more of a, and those are all of the different expressions of fear. And when you're contracted, the big thing that happens is that other people become the enemy. So just contract a little bit and look around. And notice that even in a little bit of contraction, you start having more anxious thoughts or critical thoughts, or you're wondering if other people like you, and people, you've all stopped breathing. So you can either be expanding or growing, or you can be contracting or protecting, or as Bruce Lipton says, but you can't do both. You can't do both. And so I've really been looking at how to befriend fear, how to recognize fear. So I have a whole process I call Finding Your Fear Signature. And that we've been making videos of that. I've been making videos of all of these. It's very exciting. And putting together the simplest, most powerful processes that we know to assist people to actually be able to turn toward their fear rather than away from it, and include their fear. And fear is different than other feelings. So when you're angry, and you express that clearly, if someone is committed a trespass, and you handle that, you know, you didn't keep you in agreement with me, I felt angry about that, I would like da-da-da-da, and you clear that up, then that leaves your body. When you're sad and you cry, then for that moment you don't feel that you've ridden the wave. But fear isn't a wave. Fear is like, it's like a spider web. And it can surround your other feelings, and it certainly surrounds your body. And it can be invisible to you. But when you're like, have you ever walked through a spider web and it's, but you don't know it's there until you walk into it? When you remove the fear web, you literally get connected with life energy. So most of what fear does is remove us to keep us safe. And when you befriend fear, then all of your other experiences become available. I like to use the image of an electrical pole where the electrical wires haven't been connected and they're all kind of, and people who are in that kind of fear can feel dangerous, and they are dangerous. And I'm dangerous if I get into that, and but when I hook those up, then I turn that fear into life energy, and that I can use as I choose, rather than being used by it. So my sense is that fear has run our, I think it goes all the way back to when we dropped the atom bomb, that we changed the chemistry of the world, and that we've been in a fear state ever since. I grew up in that. I grew up in, we're getting another echo of it now, which I think goes back to the bomb shelters. You know, so now the duck and cover drills that people are doing for gun control are the same kind of ones that we did for expecting an atomic bomb to be dropped any moment. And that matrix that we've been growing up in, I think we're at the apex of that right now. Are we going to continue recreating that, or are we going to actually befriend fear and turn fear into flow, fear into connection? And so that's my purpose right now and for the next period of time.
Oh,
thank you.
My language, it's really fun to see over years and decades of kind of how our work is separate and connected. I love that, separation and connection, that's my thing really. So it's different language, but basically very similar outcome. Result is, I think a lot about reactive brain and creative brain.
Yeah.
So reactive brain is anytime we perceive a threat, we go into some sort of reactivity. And then we can move out of it. Eventually, we will do that naturally, hopefully, unless we keep re-evoking the stories that are scaring us. So I think it'd be helpful perhaps to do a little brain anatomy right now, because why not? And it's Thursday night. So this is Daniel Siegel. So thanks, Daniel. So get your hands out. Thumbs in, fingers over. And then like this, and you put your two hands together. That is sort of very, very vaguely like a brain. Okay, can you kind of see it? So I'll borrow Katie's skull over here. Okay, so see, it's right in there. So to have a sense of this, because where I'm going with this is if you look at one of the hemispheres, all right, you can kind of start to see we've got a spine and midbrain, and right up here, we've got all this nice gray matter, and we mostly, I think, seem to think that we operate from this neocortex, the stuff on top. Well, some of the time we do. But then there's this little troublemaker in the middle, the limbic system. And then back here, all this stuff, that's the reptilian stuff. So our emotional brain is way in the middle there. It's what's getting activated when you perceive a threat. It's kind of going, ah! Okay. Little thumbs. Okay, so you might want to take a moment. I like to do this to forgive your reactive brain. This is and then if you're with somebody, you might want to forgive their reactive brain too.
What?
Might be a little hard.
Not them. No.
They really are a jerk. Yeah. So because mostly, right? So I appreciate you're sitting here, and I don't know what you're thinking, but you're sitting as if all is well. Now I might have become the threat at this point, I don't know. But mostly, you know, a lot of the time we are just able to think and do and be very civil. John Gottman, who's this great marital researcher, has done all kinds of things over the decades. This piece of research that just totally changed how I work as a therapist. This is what he did, because what he does over time is he has couples sit in front of a video camera, and then they're connected to all these, like, you know, galvanized skin response things and heart rate monitors and all this stuff, and so then they start to fight. He says, okay, have the conflict, which I guess if you're a very compliant subject, then you would just do that. Okay, sure, we'll start to fight. And so then get into the fight, and their heart rate is going up, and adrenaline is going. And then they said, okay, wait, stop, our camera just broke. So just sit there, please, while we fix the camera. And they wait for 15 minutes, and then say, okay, go ahead, you can keep going. But at that point, he realized, or the researchers realized, that they basically had a different couple in front of them. because by 15 minutes in, they'd had some amount of ability to metabolize their adrenaline and their cortisol, and they had started to settle down, and then they could talk to each other again. So you move out of reactivity, and then there you are, your best self again. But you move into reactivity, and you will be, well, I don't know, worse self, whatever that is, but you will be the jerk. You will be the one that pulls in, you'll be the frozen one, the one stonewalling. Maybe it's just me. But all that is your reactive brain. So that's my version of fear, because you've perceived there to be a threat. All of your defenses are doing what they're supposed to do. Yay, defenses. Except for how they ruin relationships. It's not a problem. You know?
Except for that.
I know. All is well. Because if you didn't have a reactive brain, you wouldn't be sitting here. You would be dead. The bus would have bowled you over, because you wouldn't have been like, well, let's see, there's the bus. Let's see. Oh. Right? So,
what is that
reactive brain? Except for how it's not. Because, yes, the enemy thing, that's one of the first things that happens. It's our brains switch. So you were so nice. I love you so much until you said that thing, and now I hate you. And why? How did that happen? Well,
how did you do that?
Did you just switch with someone else? And so to actually understand, I have to actually talk to myself sometimes and say, no, Julie, that's you. Nothing happened out there. Really, the entire world did not just change. It has something to do with your physiology.
Yeah.
So that would be my version of, what to do with fear, is to really see, so you might want to give your a little more love into the reactive brain.
Beautiful. What's the role of beauty and art in nature in your teachings?
Beauty and art and nature in your teachings. What'd she say? Did you hear that?
Beauty and art and nature.
Yeah. For me, it is the answer to the question, what's the point? What are we, we're being encouraged to fight back, and what for? What are we actually developing? What are we celebrating? What are we encouraging? What are we giving our attention to? And I've been noticing, well, for one, when I get those emails to fight back, I write back to them and say, I prefer to engage. I'd like to engage with others to create something that really works for all of us. And so, because fight is one of the expressions of fear. So if I'm fighting back, I'm just contributing to keeping it all going. But when I look at what are humans actually up to? And I don't know if you've ever been to the British Museum, but all of the museums in the world, but especially the British Museum, because it goes back for so many, they've collected, because they stole things from everywhere. They have tchotchkes and stuff and bracelets and things and drawings that go way, way, way back. So it looks to me that humans make art. Humans make art, and humans make dance, and humans make music. And that goes all the way back, and it's in all cultures. And I participated in some film a while back where talking about how we can jumpstart evolution. And my assertion was that the best way is to get people to move together with music, right? Yes. that if I think as we've gotten more and more what I call head-centric, we have abandoned our ability to create. And I also think that creativity is the only experience that's more powerful than adrenaline. And right now we're on this adrenaline roller coaster that is gotten about as exciting as I would like to see it get. And I've actually experienced for myself that when I'm creating, I'm so engaged and I'm so aware of the act of being alive, and creative thoughts are coming through and they're connecting with others, and it's juicier than adrenaline. And if we don't find something that's juicier than adrenaline, it's over. And so for me, art and beauty, along with justice. I took one of those tests, so like, what are your values? What are your top values? And my top two were beauty and justice, which is this nice juxtaposition. That when we create together, when we co-create together, that's so much more satisfying than getting stuff, having power over others, being right. See, being right, just take a moment and be right. Just, get right. And think about the last time that somebody was really wrong and you were so right. And just enjoy that adrenaline. Because, can you feel it? It's already going. It's going.
Damn. Okay, we have to get right again.
Yeah, you have to get right again. You have to keep feeding that getting right, and then it escalates, and then you get in a conflict, and then but that's it. To me, it's very boring now, because it's just like a two-step game. I'm right, you're wrong. And that's, and then we escalate,
Yeah.
But creativity and co-creativity, I think that's really the new frontier, that what we can co-create together, that's part of what is happening for Gay and me right now, that having practiced what some of the things that we're sharing with you and lots of others for many, many years now, that's all we do is create and co-create. That's it. So I was just thinking, have an argument. I was thinking, have an argument. Have a conflict. We haven't had a conflict there's been no criticism in our house in this century. And it's not like we don't do that, it's just that we don't do that. Because we're engaged in being authentic, in appreciating, in taking responsibility, and in creating. That's what we're up to.
I was taking a mental tour of your home. I was thinking about Beauty and Katie, because I can just imagine walking around with you in the backyard and there's this geode that is so beautiful, and let's walk over to this paint color and these cushions that I like, that you're so fastidious in such a really amazing way about making sure visually how things smell is just pleasing to
my intention in my house, when this is the longest time that we've ever lived anywhere, and my intention, we live in Ojai, California, and we've lived there almost 20 years, and my intention when we first moved there was that people would experience beauty wherever they looked. And we have one of those California homes that's kind of indoor, outdoor, so we have windows all along both sides. And I was just looking around the other day, I thought, I did it. I did it. Yeah. We took out our lawns in the front and in the back, and we have bee and butterfly and hummingbird gardens in the front, and we have a kind of a desert landscape in the back. And yesterday I was walking out to the mailbox, and 4 monarch butterflies, it's November, 4 monarch butterflies were flying around. We've had more butterflies this year than ever. And so for me, it's also, this is how I intend to continue proceeding. I think of myself if we are on the Titanic going down, I'm going to be one of the musicians. Yeah.
I think that our natural state is joy. And from Creative Brain, it is natural to us to collaborate and connect. It just is who we are. And this whole rugged individualism idea that somehow, I think it was all John Wayne. I don't know. One guy.
Well,
I think it was
when
before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Calvin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We conquer the world, and
John the Baptist. Right. Okay. I don't think that's really who we are. And so masculine, feminine energies, however you want to put it, I believe that as this sort of feminine energy comes through, not in female, but and of coming back into connection. And our natural state is connection, play. We want to be with each other. It's just not really who we are to be off in the desert with the horse whose name we don't know.
One of the stupidest songs ever written, in my opinion.
You think about that cowboy alone on the prairie, except he always had his horse. So I'm thinking, I don't know.
I think you're onto something.
Connection.
Well, this is America. This is the myth of America.
Yes. And
manifest destiny.
Right. I want to.
For all you history buffs.
I want to bust that one too, that myth, because it's not actually good for any of us. This whole idea that if you're in a relationship and now you have to go off and be by yourself so that you can find you, and well, I know there's something to be said for that separateness, but we find ourselves in relationship. That's how I know who I am, because there's something out there. And there's this great image that I've used over time, I think I can't reference who it's from, so blessings, whoever it is. But if there you are, just in space, you're floating in space, how do you know you're you? Until there's a fly there, and now you can have a relationship with the fly, or there's a cold wave of air. Like a relationship with something is how we know we have a self. So I do believe that is who we naturally are, and we really want to open that back as a positive, not all this codependence is so bad. Well, I know you need to know yourself is different from someone else. You have a different body, okay? But to be able to value connection as really what brings out the best of us, and co-creation, that amazing experience of genius and people showing up as from their essence and bringing in what your gifts are, who you came in as. And it's one of my favorite things is to have somebody say, oh, you know what else we could do? And I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of that. Thank you. Now that's fun. Let's try that. So to have it come together is such a natural experience of humanity, I think. And I want to add in nature a little bit, give nature, since the role of nature is so funny, isn't it, that we're sitting here being part of nature, talking about nature. But
nature's nature's talking.
Hello. Okay.
Nature is talking.
Nature, I'm talking. I don't know if somebody else heard this or read this a while back about, well, we've passed the moment. We've passed the moment of being able to solve this climate crisis. Anybody else hear that? It's too late. So I don't know. We should just die now or something. I don't know what the message there is. But I thought, well, thank God. Thank God, because humans, of course, we're not going to solve it. It never was ours to begin with. Like, we are part of nature, so why aren't we connecting? And of course, indigenous people have been doing that since forever. So me, the white European person, sort of catching up with, oh, nature, right, good point, right, that is how we're going to walk through this, is connecting to those amazing energies that I know, my small experience as what I can see, what I know about. Did you know that butterflies can see ultraviolet rays? Isn't that cool? I can't see them. Does that mean they're not there? No. So, right? Right?
But you could get up a good argument about it.
That's right. They can't be there because I can't see them.
Right.
That's not true.
Right. And those people who see them, they just don't know what they're doing.
They're just making it up. But actually tuning into the level of support we have, the energy that's all around us right now. I mean, even taking a breath in, and I mean, imagine the breath you're taking. This, for those of you that think, well, there's not enough, well, take a big breath, because there's actually enough. Imagine that air that you just breathed is love. Let's try that. That what you're breathing in is love right here, right now. It's not some other time, it's not some other place. You don't have to be some other person. It's right here, and it always has been. So that we are part of that, and it is available to us with every breath. Thank you, God. Thank you, nature. Whoever that is, all of us. That's what I'd say about nature.
Did I tell you how good they were? So you talked to Katie about a myth you just mentioned. One of the myths that I think it's a myth, comes up a lot in the work I do, is the role of the rational.
Yes.
It's said to me many times that the role of business is to solve problems, which is interesting because I thought it was to be creative and solve a need, but address a need in a creative way. But this is what comes to me, is solve problems. So
I love that. Right. That's how they often approach it too. Right.
And so I'm curious if you'd speak about, I've heard you both talk about the bias towards the logical and the analytical, and talk about the role of the body and body intelligence, and what is that and what does it mean? And Julie, maybe you could talk about player down in that as well. Because this is something that I would say I hear over and over and over and over and over again. What is that body stuff? But what about these problems that we have to solve?
Right, as if those were two different things. Yeah, I think that's the root of the problem, is that I think I'm different than my body. There's me, and then there's this body, which is not me. And my job is to control it, and to control its impulses, and to, basically, I think it comes from fear of the body that goes back at least a couple thousand years. So the body bad, head good, body bad. I've actually started saying the head body and the body body. Because we really think it's the head and the body. So the head body and the body body. They're actually the same body. But most people truly, I think, don't experience that. And that there's tremendous fear of body and what the body does, and fluids and impulses and the body wants to eat, and and fingernails and all these things, and taking care of your body. And I know when I was taking care of my folks when they were dying, what I really got appreciation for is how much work it takes to take care of our bodies. I mean, just to maintain our bodies. And my sense is that the rational is like going up on the top of a mountain to try and control the world. That when you're rational, you're using a part of your brain that's about the size of a quarter. When you move and you breathe, basically when you move and you breathe, you activate all parts of your brain. So that's why when I'm engaging with people, I never have them just sit and talk. When I'm, that would just be a waste of these resources. Your body wisdom, that's where your intuition comes from. That's where all of your inheritance from generations comes from. It comes through your body. And body signals, we wrote, one of our books is called At the Speed of Life, and it's about 20 years old now. We just put out a new version of it where we took out therapy. There's no therapy now in the book. Because of that particular model. There's something inherently a problem about that model. But my sense is that learning to love our experiences of being in a body. And I can say that with great confidence, having come from a family of 3 engineers and 1 crazy artist, and me. And so learning the whole life, it's a problem to be solved. It's really an orientation that has great usefulness, but it's also a prison if you think that's the only point of view. When you were talking about that at the very beginning of just having a point of view, engineers solve problems. And if they don't have a problem to solve,
actually. They make one.
Yeah, so engineers look for problems. And my sense is that a lot of what goes on, particularly in corporate world still, is looking at life as a problem to be solved rather than as an opportunity to learn, to co-create, to celebrate, to meet needs with solutions. But not just to meet needs with solutions, to invent, to go into the unknown. And to go into the unknown with company. You know, get your tribe together and you go into the unknown and see what you can find.
Oh, I have two things I want to say. Is it this one or that one? So I'm going to say this one first and hopefully get to this one. Okay. So first, this is the piece of wisdom I want to pass on from a teacher. Your mind does not wish the best for you. That was shocking to me. I was relying on my mind. I was also very unhappy at the time, but I really thought I could figure out my way, my way out of that.
Exactly, yes. You could figure your
way
out of it.
Which, of course, created more of the same stuff. So I want to be sure that you hear that, and that over the years I've learned my body is impeccable in telling me the truth. Yeah. So if I want to know the truth, I shouldn't listen to my mind because it makes shit up all the time. This is very clear to me. One day I was in our living room. It was a bit cluttered. I was feeling great, and then I walked across and I tripped over something, and my first thought was, Kathy. Sorry, Kathlyn. Some version of what, how could you have left that there? But in just that fast, my mind became my enemy, as well as poor Kathy's. So to really start to see that the trickster that my mind was and how state dependent my mind is. So I'm much less. This is true. I'm just trying that out. Most of the time, I don't believe what I'm thinking, especially if I'm in reactive brain, because it wants to tell me all this stuff. And is it true? Well, I guess so. From that state, it's true. It's just that's not the world I want to live in. Is that place of negativity? Because it certainly I can create more and more of it as I go. But this hand wants to get to business, because has anybody been in a meeting? Imagine a meeting. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, now in this meeting, all right, we're all here. Okay, come on, we're at this meeting. I got you all together today. Okay, now at least 3 of you just got a bad text from home, and so you're feeling bad. And the one over there, one of you is really mad because of some exchange that you and I just had before we got to the meeting. And then somebody's mother just died, right? But we got to have this meeting. Okay, should we get something done? Because we only have, an hour to get something done.
We must do something.
We got to get something done. But the problem, one of the many, with reactive brain is we basically are cognitively disabled. Now, people don't really believe that when we are in reactive brain, but you cannot reach out into the places of creativity. You just can't. Sorry, that's not what your brain is about. Your brain is about detecting the threat and getting the hell out of there. It really wants you to get the hell out of there. You might have to stay, and then you could fight, or you could freeze if you must.
Or you could faint.
Or you could faint, yes. So there's our meeting, right? Okay, some of it, okay, you faint, you collapse over there, and now, okay, everybody agree? Great, let's go do the plan. Right?
What plan?
Yeah.
What?
Didn't you remember?
I didn't agree to that.
I sent you the memo. Don't you get the memo?
Oh, I think it went in my spam folder.
Oh, once again, you've broken your agreement. It's going on your evaluation. Right? And so that's what it can look like instead of around here. I've really learned. It took me some time, maybe years, that if anybody's in reactive brain, we need to stop the meeting, because nothing is going to get better. Really, if you're in a couple and you're in a conflict, but you're not in Katie's house. But anyway, you're in a conflict, nothing is going to get better. I promise you. I've tested the theory. And if you don't stop and shift your physiology, you're just going to be more and more in the same. And so in terms of business, we're wasting so many human resources of creativity by not stopping. So the player down, this is my image these days. It's still football, is it? Yes. I forgot what month it is. Where am I?
You're letting people know.
Right. Okay. So imagine in a football game, right? If there was never the whistle stopping the play, and the people just like keep running over each other and
piling on each other.
Right, but keep going, go!
And grab the football and go
Bam! That's right. Just keep going for 45 minutes. So people in football figured it out. It's a good idea to stop and get everybody back up and maybe get some Gatorade or take care of bodies.
Somebody carted off the field.
That's right. Just stop. And so I've imagined, I haven't done this yet, issuing yellow flags, so you could be where you are.
Flag on the field.
And then everybody would just stop.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay,
flag on the
I'll
field.
Be doing that.
Yeah.
Great fundraising idea.
Okay, there you go. Yellow flags. Okay.
I think it's a great idea because I was in a meeting one time where someone was openly crying, and the person leading the meeting did not look at that person, did not address that person, and we had 45 minutes, and we went through that meeting. All I remember is this person crying.
That stood out.
Else, and, so I really like this player down as a way to address what's happening and creatively, as you've been saying.
Feelings are so highly contagious in all directions, for the most expanded, but certainly reactive brain feelings. I mean, smart us as a herd, as a pack, for humans to make fear contagious. Okay, got it. Okay, that worked, right? So they're so contagious that to pretend that we don't feel it is crazy. It's nuts. Our whole limbic system's going, yes, somebody's crying over there. So to not actually handle it is great. Just tromping all over all the players versus getting everybody, all the players in the team up and ready.
One of the ways we're going to address that in the programs I was telling you about is with our basic transformational process, which is FACT, facing, accepting, acknowledging and accepting, choosing, and taking action. And all of our transformational processes are a version of that. And I see player down as you're facing, and everybody's facing, turning toward what is happening. I think that's the basic, there's somebody down. And then a version of, okay, we're accepting, we're not ignoring, we're not saying this is not happening. We're going, oh, what's happening here? And facing into that, which is the hardest thing to do, and then accepting and then choosing, which one of the things I really like to do in business a lot is pattern interrupt. So dropping the words out, having people change their seats, doing a meeting standing. I once did a meeting with Bell Labs where just before the break, I said, everybody has to change seats with somebody else, but you can't touch the floor. It was really fun. They did it. They just got right into it. And so the idea of breaking open the context that's accepted, that, like in the meeting, we have the meeting is a context everybody understands. You go into a meeting, it's a terrible context, but we accept it and we try to fit ourselves in, or we smush it a little bit, or we complain about it, but I like to just disrupt it. So
let's disrupt the context right now. How should we have them all move around?
Yeah, I think so, and I think also it's maybe, let's not take a formal break, but let's have them, if anybody needs to take a break, go ahead, but let's do some stuff. Do you want to do your thing first?
Sure. Stand up and move around and find a new place to sit. And if you need to pee, go pee, and then we'll come back in like 1 minute.
Oh, that was great. Hey. have a 1-minute pee.
Yes, the chamber pots are under your chairs.
Quote about the mind. So David Bohm, a very fine physicist, said, "The mind makes up the world," and then says, "I didn't do that."
Wasn't me.
That was good.
So, well, you were talking earlier about simple. Our mind doesn't want us to believe that shifting and changing can be simple. How many times it couldn't be that simple? Life is much more complicated than that. You know, like you must be a little.
And you're having fun.
And you're, right, right, and that means there's something definitely wrong. Yeah, because life is serious. I've always thought that that Sirius is like my older brother who was always #1 and I was #2, and I'm very playful. But Sirius always got all the attention, and playful was like, that's nice. But now we have to get to the important things, which are always serious.
Right.
So in the meeting, we're going to get down to business, and that means we're going to get serious. So this is the structure that we've grown up in, and that's been going on for a very long time. And what I want to suggest to you is that it is as simple as what we call new choice, and what scientists call pattern interrupt. So I'd like you to notice what's familiar about the way you're sitting right now. Just notice what's familiar about it. And it may be, you may add stuff to that, like judgments and comparisons. But just if you just notice what's familiar, and then I'd like you to just change one thing about the way you're sitting. Just change one thing, and then I'd like you to notice whether you create any more aliveness, any more sense of connection with you, if your breath opens. And now, change something else. And again, notice if you feel more aliveness, more openness, more possibility. Now, I'd like you to move around the room and back to your chair, and I'd like you to move through the room in a bunch of new ways. So I'd like you to, so everybody up, but I'd like you to get up in a new way. Too late. Right. Now, start to move, and then change one thing. And then keep moving and change another thing. And remember, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be just a little thing. And let your path take you on back to close to your chair or where you were. And especially if you feel stuck, just change something. Just change something. Great. And those of you who don't want to come back, don't. You can locate yourself someplace else. Great change. So now notice your availability. Notice that there's more space in the room. Notice that people's, you can see them better. Like your eyes are sparkling. I can see that. I couldn't see that before. I don't know if they were sparkling before, but now I see they're sparkling. So I see the world differently because I am creating new neural wiring. And that can happen throughout your entire life. And it's simple. And that's the basis of all of the different activities that we do. How about you do yours, and then I can do some fear melters with them.
Well, yes, okay. So,
Well,
I think
again-
you're on a roll, and I want
Yeah.
to do mine after because
Okay.
it's a different.
Oh, it's a different thing.
flavor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wanting to have them have some break from me.
Oh. I know they're probably thinking, oh God, more Katie.
And more Katie. But I have cards for you, so you have a reward for your participation. So I want to do a quick run through of fear melters, and then there's lots of support. There's lots of videos that will assist you to play with your fear, to be able to include all of your different experiences. So I'd like you all, you can do this standing or sitting. If you want to stand and most people are sitting, come on over here. So I'd like to show you a fear signature, and then one of the fears, and then the fear melter that goes with it. So I'd like you to make fists. Oh, I just saw the ad for the new Charlie's Angels, and they're doing fight. There it is. So if you want to know what fight is, just look at the new ad for Charlie's Angels. They're all like this. Okay, so but what you need to do with it is you stick your chin out, and you go, oh yeah, oh yeah. So you go, oh yeah. It's sort of East Coast. Oh yeah. Put 'em up. Yeah. So fight. One of the confusions is between am I angry or am I scared? I'd like you to assume for the next time being that you're scared. And then when you have moved from fear to here, then you can tell if there's also some anger. Anger moves along different tracks in your body than fear does. So you catch yourself in this, and it could also just be okay, so let's do some more like, oh yeah. You think yeah, that's ridiculous. So our little, when it sort of shows up in your face a little bit like, you will not. So it doesn't have to be the full blown, but just to get a sense of whether that's one of your signatures, I like to have people do the boxer stance. So get into whatever your fight is. And then the fear melter, and by the way, this is going to your body first, because you will never talk anybody out of being scared, including you. So when you catch yourself, you do oozing. And oozing is like that big seaweed in the ocean, or my favorite, hot fudge over ice cream. And taking that, especially through jaw, shoulders, where we tend to hold the fight. And notice that you cannot fight. See? Yeah, you can't fight while you're oozing. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that you're not going to go back into fighting, but you have a choice. And what we found is people have been practicing fear melters that they've actually integrated them. So they don't have to wait to get scared in order to do fear melters. We have a whole program where people are doing 3 minutes of fear melters in the morning with music that they like, and it creates a template for the day, a kind of openness and flow for the day. Okay, so flee. So I'd like you to get your body squared, and then I'd like you to let one shoulder start moving away. So that's one form of fleeing. Try the other shoulder. You might have sightedness. I'm definitely a left fleer. I try to flee with my right goes, no, I am not going anywhere. But left goes, shh. And what I notice when I'm fleeing is that my breath gets really diffuse. So right away, I can feel I'm leaving. So square yourself again, and then let your head back up. So this is the experience of being caught at the Christmas party with somebody who's just gotten into the hummus big time. And you can't go anywhere. So you flee backwards. Okay, so there's very popular to flee up. Well, what do you mean by that? And where did that come from? And to analyze, so a lot of what we do that we think is figuring things out is actually a flee. But my favorite flee is the what if. So bring your body just forward a little bit and start thinking about, well, what if you learn all of these things tonight, but then you go home and you're trying to teach somebody who doesn't have any idea what you're talking about, and they're really upset, and then what? That's a flee forward. And I see that all the time in our seminars, where someone will be experiencing someone and they'll go, well, what if? And it's a flee forward. So for this one, you will need to stand, because the fear melter for flee is sumo. So you get your legs wide and you get down. And I like to shift from one leg to the other, and I'm so happy that I can do this now. This is about almost 3 years since I broke my hip, my left hip. And so to be able to do sumo again, it's just very fun. So when you're practicing sumo, I recommend a full-on sumo, so that you really get a sense, because you're not going anywhere. In sumo, you get that sense of, I am here. But you can do a mini sumo, which is to just feel your feet. Let yourself really feel the bottoms of your feet, feel your toes, presence your feet. And that's also a sumo. Okay, so those are the two that are most familiar with people. My personal favorite is freeze. And to do a full-on freeze, you grip your toes, grip your butt, grip your stomach, grip your hands, hold your breath, and open your eyes really wide. And then like, and do it again. Now, it can be also a startle. No, so you can have a little freeze, a startle freeze. And actually, when I fell, my body froze, and I knew my body froze, and I couldn't do anything. I had this, and just enough of a freeze that my eye went over, my bike went over on top of me, and boom, that was it. So the freeze is very powerful. And I know I learned how to freeze to become invisible. And I think that's true in the animal world too, that if you just freeze, you're not here, and the predator will not see you. And what people usually say is, just relax. Just relax. When you're frozen. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Just relax.
I'm relaxing.
And what I found, though, is when I'm frozen, I can wiggle my fingers and toes. So see if you like your toes better or your fingers better. But when I wiggle my toes, my fingers start wiggling. So kind of vice versa. And then you can let the wiggling start to migrate, so that you start to let your arms wiggle and your body wiggle. And I like to go all the way so that my voice is actually wiggling. I'm wiggling so much that my voice is wiggling. And there's a mini version of this, which I call face flapping, which is a wiggle that those of us of a certain age can do very well. You put your head forward and you go, and I find that when I loosen the freeze in my face, that everything else really lets go. So I like this one a lot. And then the last one is the one that I think that the least our country, if not the whole world, has been in for about 20 years or so, which is a faint. And I'd like you to imagine that your energy is just draining out through your body, puddling under you. It's just blah, 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 blah. Yeah, oh, you do this really well. And the other way that I like to have people do this is open your mouth. Let your mouth hang open, look around and say, huh? So it's where you have a moment of going stupid, and I say it doesn't necessarily mean that you are stupid, that you just have had a moment of where you lose, you disappear, that pooling and being pulled down. And what I found too in the research is that faint is the closest thing to death. So animals go into faint when they know they're dying. And the the antidote I call love scoops, and because you reach out. So I'd like you to imagine that you have a pool of love. You're standing in a deep pool or a shallow pool that's full of all of the sensory experiences that you associate with love, with warmth or color or coolness. And I'd like you to reach into the pool, and I'd like you to get some love, and I'd like you to actually give it to yourself. I'd like you to apply it anywhere that your body wants some love. You can shower it over yourself. You can go and you can apply it to the places in you that you think are unlovable. But make sure that you reach and contact yourself, because you're actually reaching out is your first move as an infant that allows you to connect with the world, so that you're not just receiving. So reaching out and bringing in and connecting with you, those are the fear melters. And if you put them together, they're even more powerful. So when we leave, we won't hand them out right now, but I have at least 2 fear melter cards for each of you. So one for you and one for you to give to somebody else.
Yeah. Thanks, generous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody sit down.
Sit down now and,
Sit down.
yeah.
Seriously.
Okay, now change something about the way you're sitting.
So I'd like to teach you something also from some things that I've been working on the last few years. In fact, my book called The Inner Map is almost ready, so it's coming out soon, because I've been playing a lot with this map. Like, imagine that you had a map inside of you, sort of like a mall map. You know, the kind that you go to.
You are here.
You are here.
Yeah.
That's very useful to me, because I sometimes don't know where I am, so it just says you are here.
Especially in some malls.
I know.
Yeah.
Mall of America, for example.
Exactly.
Let me just tell you about that. Where am I? So this is a way to locate yourself. And because it's late and some of you can't see this little thing, I'm just going to give you a sense overall of reactive brain below the line, or very contracted, creative brain out here, expanded. Okay, that's what it looks like, the inner map. What I'm fascinated by is how we are all really great at hypnotizing ourselves. I had a client once who got so scared that they were able to get the plane to go back to the gate.
Whoa.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
I mean, that takes something to get them to go. Like, how does that even work? Right. So when we looked at what happened, it was very clear at how good they were at hypnotizing themselves into fear. And I'm guessing every single one of you is equally skilled at that. Thank you. Yes. And you have your own version of that, of getting stuck in a thought that you think over and over again. And that's basically what hypnosis is. I mean, there's a few other things you've done this, but it's kind of like that with a lot of sensory detail, because if you're hypnotizing yourself into fear, I'm bringing climate change, I guess it's on my brain, right? We can all hypnotize ourselves together about, oh my God, because it's going to look like this, and oh, those polar bear pictures, right? You know, the sensory detail and the pictures of the fires, and like, what is it you're circulating in your own mind where you are hypnotizing yourself into a certain state? And I actually think that a lot of what we call psychiatric diagnoses are people getting stuck in certain states, getting stuck in despair because, you know, there's just nothing we can do about it. Or stuck in fear because, oh my God, I can't go to that party because what are they going to say? And what am I going to say? And I don't know. So getting stuck in that. And so I invite you to start to notice how you're getting stuck in a certain state. And we're going to walk up the map a little bit. I'll tell you, let's see, I'll pick, because how much time do we have? We're going to Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Because why not?
Go for it.
So if you were way down in shame, which is the most contracted state, what would you be saying about your place, what we're doing as humans in the world right now, the state of the planet? What would you say? What would be a story?
It sucks.
It sucks. We're destroying. What, pardon me?
No one's paying attention.
Nobody's paying. Basically, we're bad, and we're ruining it all.
We deserve this.
And we deserve this. Great. So that's a shame story. Now, that takes us up to guilt. What's a guilt story?
Oh, I should have done something different.
Should have.
I recycled for the last decade.
Exactly. Should have. And what about that plastic bag I just threw away? Oh. So guilt stories, and then up to despair. What's a despair story?
It's hopeless.
It's hopeless. Doesn't matter what we do anyway.
And that one's related to faint.
See how this starts to come together? It's very elegant. So now,
Elegant. Very elegant.
what's your sadness story?
Poor animals.
What? Right?
Poor them.
Poor them. Poor us.
Poor us. Poor me.
Poor me. Poor. Right. So, and now I'm not saying that these are not accurate, or that you shouldn't feel this. So I feel sad right now as you're saying these things. It's not about don't say that. It's more about starting to understand what you're saying, because by saying it, you are anchoring yourself into a certain state. And you can choose what state you want to anchor yourself into. Because thoughts anchor, feelings flow, but thoughts anchor. So if you're going to anchor yourself, do you really want to anchor yourself in despair or sadness? Well, you can if it's, I don't know, if you want. But let's go up to the next one, frozen fear. What's a frozen fear story?
I don't know how to fix it.
I don't know. What should I do?
I don't know. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Great. What do we do with recycling if China's not taking it anymore? Ah! Huh? Okay, and how about agitated fear?
Do more.
Gotta do something. We gotta do something.
Does it right now.
I know. Right.
Get those bottles.
Okay, so we're changing states of consciousness with each story. So notice you're doing that. And we're doing it together, but you're doing that with every story you're telling. So now the next one up is, because there's more energy. See, as you go out, there's more energy in every state as we're going out from shame on out. So what is your anger story?
What the fuck?
Plastics.
Yeah. What the fuck? What the fuck? Right. Which will get us pretty close to pride, which has a righteous element.
I've been recycling for 40 years.
Exactly. What about you? Yes.
I teach recycling.
Yeah. Right. What about all those other people? Right. The righteousness. All of these are below the line. These are all reactive brain stories. So if you want to stay in reactive brain, tell yourself a reactive brain story. But if you don't, let's get out to neutrality. Because that's above the line. That's now going over into creative brain, aka facing.
Yeah.
So what is a neutral story?
This is what's happening.
So can we be with that for just a moment? Like, let your body be with that. Oh, this is what's happening. Oh, it's happening.
This is a really big one. That actually facing and feeling.
Facing and feeling.
Yeah.
It's happening. Here I am. It's happening. And then let's go up to acceptance. What's an acceptance story? A little tougher. Isn't this interesting, right? It gets a little more challenging because those other stories are very compelling because of all the adrenaline. But here we are facing that, or accepting. I love how you teach acceptance, or I've heard it, which is, I have to remember what day it is. Today's Thursday. Thank you. Totally, I could have gotten to Friday, I don't know. So today is Thursday, and this is happening. So can you feel today's Thursday? Can you accept that today's Thursday? Today's Thursday, and it's happening. Now notice how your body feels different. You're telling us a different story and you're changing your body. That is cool. Like, that is power. Just by what you are thinking. And I would say, and you're accessing a higher energy now.
It's interrupting a pattern too.
And you're, yes. So let's go up to appreciation. What's an appreciation story about?
Warmer out.
It's warmer out. It's warmer out.
I like warmth.
Nice. Yeah. What else? What's another appreciation story?
I'm grateful people are doing things about it.
You know, there's all the people right now. Millions of people are doing things about it.
We're establishing community.
We are established, you know, we're coming together.
And also, I was just thinking about the light through my front yard at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, where it looks like a Monet garden.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that quality of light, and giving my full attention to that and savoring that. That's
Appreciation,
Yeah.
feeling that way in yourselves. And again, you're doing this right now by what you are saying and what you're attending to. That means you can do this anytime, anywhere, just because, just for no good reason, to quote Gay, for no good reason, just because this is what you're choosing. Not because it's better than, not saying that, not because it's more true, it's just a different story. And how about love? What's a story from love?
I can be in the same space with this.
Anything else? I'm loving beings across the planet, all beings, feeling that connection, that we're all connected, feeling the mystery of that.
Loving the trees.
Yeah, the trees.
Loving different people's reactions to what's going on.
Now, if anybody is having an interruptive thought that's kind of getting you back here, it's like, okay, yeah, but, it's serious.
But what about the...
That would be an upper limit moment. It's not that it's not true, just might be feeling too good out here. So how about joy? What's a joy story?
All this in bodies too.
All this embodies too. Oh my God.
This is a great time to be alive.
Great time to be here. Woohoo! Look at all the things that are changing.
Dancing.
And dancing.
Transformation.
Transformation. And how about we get all the way out to peace? What's a peace story?
You can make a new choice.
All is well.
All is well.
Everything's exactly as it should be.
Well, perfect, because we're part of nature, and nature is perfect. And all is well. So understanding that you can choose any story you want. And I would say, and as you choose these stories and you're walking around in these stories, that is activism. That is impacting all of us, all beings, because you're doing this instead of doing that, which is just less power.
It's also stickier.
It kind of is.
It's more pokey.
It is. It kind of hurts in there. Ouch, 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 ouch. And it uses up, it uses up energy being there. It's stressful, and our bodies are not able to rebuild because we're on all the stress chemicals. So there might be a few disadvantages. But now, while we're out here, I want to tell you something because I have these shirts next to me. And so imagine this, because my story out here is pretty simple or similar, like we are all one. And I was thinking about this whole player down thing, and I was thinking about tribalism, right? Because we're segmenting, and I thought, oh, but we're all one. We're all one. So I thought, because I've been sort of into my own athleticism lately, I thought, well, what team am I part of? Because okay, here's a little research that's very interesting. People do this. You sit in front of a computer and you look at faces that are flashing and you say, good, bad, good, bad. This is some research, some social psychology research. And they've done this comparing Caucasians to African Americans and got all this research. Caucasians thought Caucasians were better, and so did African Americans. And people are like, oh my God. Well, then somebody had the, I just love this. Somebody said, well, let's put team jerseys on people. And it outweighed ethnicity and race. Just team jerseys. Isn't that great? So I thought, okay, teams. So I thought, well, I want to be on a team. And so this is my team. Team Human. So if anybody wants to be on my team, I've got extra T-shirts. We're selling them for BC3. Yep, if you want to be on that team. Because,
Team Human.
And I love that. We're on Earth. Tiny times.
Talk about locating.
Yes, that's right. That's where you are, Julie. On Thursday. So your mind in reactive brain does not wish the best for you, but it also is an amazing instrument to support your body to be in true expansiveness in this whole new place that we can all occupy together in connection and collaboration and fun and play. So.
Well, I think we're Sarah.
I mean, we should end with a story, right? I mean, a story from love and peace.
Oh,
and
good point. Okay, what is that story?
joy.
You have one?
I think Lindsay has a story for us.
Okay.
First, before your story, Lindsay, so that you have your official 1-minute warning, I want to appreciate all the people who made tonight happen, who set up the chairs, and Cynthia for videoing. And that was a very wiggly, joyful, and Katie for traveling to be with us tonight and sharing your time with us. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
For supporting the BC3 with your time and talent. And Nancy for facilitating this magical conversation. And for all of you for just being the community that is the Boulder Center for Conscious Community. As I said, this kind of programming and all of our programming is something we want to make available to as many people as possible. And Lindsay, you don't have to come up here if you don't want to. But okay, I thought Lindsay could share a quick story about benefiting from our scholarship fund.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I kind of grew up at the BC3, so I think of it as my second home. So I always love coming here, and I don't ever want to leave. So I just got out of school, so I'm still building my career. So it's hard for me to pay for things. I'm sure everyone understands. So like tonight, I wouldn't have been able to come unless I got some help. So things like that are super useful, and I think for me about like just constantly checking in. So if I'm away too long, it's hard.
Yeah.
So coming back is just really great. So I'm very grateful for all of the help that I can get.
We like to think that, that saying of like you can never go home again, but like that the BC3 is a home you can always come back to again and again. Right? And you sharing that, kind of being brought up in these tools with your mom coming and then being here now is, I think, such a great example of the rippling effects of your work in training Julie and then Julie's work in training us to bring this out into the world to create connection. So keep us in mind. Colorado Gives Day is coming up. We have some notes here about what your donation can accomplish. You can schedule a donation for December so that if you want to give $60, that is 6 months of someone coming to the basics. A gift of $500 helps a couple come to an essentials weekend. Any amount that you want to donate to support this work is deeply appreciated. And if you are interested in other ways to get involved in the programming that's involved, I'm happy to stick around. But we, again, want to be a place that you continue to come home to and discover and rediscover yourself as Meg Wheatley calls it, an island of sanity during what can be tumultuous times. So thank you very much for a wonderful evening, and if you want to say anything else to complete, I don't need to have the last word, but just wanted to extend my heartfelt appreciation to everyone for this beautiful evening of connection.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yay. How about if we put these out on the table and then people can get them? You want to do that? Okay, great. So Sarah said she couldn't do that. The end.